Joining us now is Joe diGenova. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
Joe, I'm so glad that, as a good Catholic and Italian, I'm so glad you were able to get over your anger at Trump making a Pope joke to join us here this morning. You must have just been so angry at that.
Yeah, I got angry right after I told my find the Pope in the pizza joke from Saturday Night Live from Father Guido Sarducci, my favorite priest. So, no, I'm not worried about any of that. And those are people just looking to pick a fight with the President of the United States. People move on in life. They don't care about any of that crap.
Yes, exactly. Well, there are serious things going on, mainly Ed Martin.
Yeah.
Turns out he might be on thin ice with the Senate. He only has 15 days. And what's horrible about this is if the Senate doesn't confirm him in that 15 days, Judge Boasberg could choose who's going to be the D.C. prosecutor. What's going on?
There's a lot of opposition that's developed as a result of some of the things that Ed has done since he became U.S. Attorney. He's a very aggressive guy. He's tried to do his job faithfully and thoroughly as the acting United States Attorney. He's taken on some pretty powerful interests, the media, the universities, people in politics, Chuck Schumer, you name it. And he's dedicated himself to doing the right thing in the job. A lot of Republican senators are pretty weak. They're worried about keeping control of the Senate in 2026. I haven't heard any public comments by any of them that said they're going to vote against him. Some have simply said they want to meet with him and have any concerns of theirs taken care of. So we'll see. If Boasberg gets to appoint the U.S. attorney, another acting U.S. attorney, which he has the right to do under federal law, I think that law is unconstitutional, by the way. Yeah. I don't think a federal judge has the right to appoint an executive branch official. But the bottom line is he will appoint someone from within the office who he believes will be a stakeholder. I don't know how Judge Boasberg thinks about things like this. His record is so sullied at this point that he's got real problems no matter what he does.
But, yeah, I mean, Joe, it seems to me there's some real separation of powers issues at work here. If a judge in a district court can choose the lead prosecutor, I mean, isn't there a conflict of interest here? I mean, setting aside the constitutionality generally, and I agree with you here, but the massive conflicts of interest that get created.
Well, there isn't any doubt about that. Yep. But the real issue is, does he have the power to do it? And under the law, he does. The question is that authority constitutional? I don't think it is. I think the independent counsel law, which was upheld to be constitutional, would never pass muster today if it were up before the Supreme Court, which it won't be anymore because they repealed the independent counsel law.
Right.
I think that the bottom line here is we're stuck with the situation as it is, and the answer is the Senate needs to do its job and confirm Ed Martin to be the United States Attorney. He's the president's choice. The president has indicated he wants him to be the U.S. attorney. He's been functioning in that job very effectively. And, he's obviously ruffled a lot of feathers, and he's obviously frightened some Republicans in the Senate. But, the sun rises and Republicans in the Senate get frightened.
You mentioned they're worried about their reelection. Collins, Tom Tillis, John Cornyn, Bill Cassidy, and McConnell, of course. These are the sort of what we're seeing as the holdouts. I'm just curious from a political standpoint, do you think that confirming Ed Martin would really hurt them and their reelection? I mean, do you think this is outside of D.C.? Do you think this is something I don't think they should worry about this.
No, but it is part of the syndrome of being a Republican senator in the modern age. You go back in history and you look at the great senators who would never, ever allow themselves to be drawn into a controversy like this of so little moment. Mm-hmm. And this is a controversy of little moment. It's nonsensical.
Yeah.
But they're making it nonsensical. They're paying homage to the media and to the leftists in the city who want to harm President Trump. This is another vehicle to harm Trump. And a United States senator should be able to say, in the absence of X, Y, and Z, the president gets his nominees. That should be the answer to every one of these questions. And yet, you look at these people up in the Senate, whoever they are, some of them are fairly decent people. They just don't know how to govern. It's very embarrassing. You get a sense of how feckless the Republicans in the Senate are. And you just watch it. And this is typical. What they should do is they say, we have a lot of very important things to do. We're not going to worry about this. We don't provide hearings for United States attorneys. He's going to be voted out of committee. And that's it. They should just move on. They don't know how to move on. It's just beyond belief.
Joe, let's shift gears here a little bit and talking about feckless bungling here of the jobs. What is going on with this situation with Luigi Mangione and possible improprieties with his arrest down in Pennsylvania?
Well, his lawyers have filed a traditional motion to suppress evidence in Pennsylvania about the manner in which he was arrested and the items that were seized of him, to suppress those items, which would be used in any prosecution against him, not only in Pennsylvania, but in New York, in the state case and the federal cases there. This is a typical fight between defense attorneys who are basically trying to create a scrum in a case where there is no scrum and there is no problem. This arrest was perfectly legal, perfectly proper, carried out correctly. They're making all sorts of wild allegations about the police didn't have probable cause or reasonable suspicion to stop him and talk to him and ask him questions. People should remember that when he was in a McDonald's, the woman who was the manager recognized him. She thought he looked like the murderer from the pictures that had been sent. She didn't want to confront him herself. She called the police. The police came. They went up to him. They started talking to him. They asked him for identification. They didn't stop him from leaving. He presented them with a fake driver's license. They immediately figured out it was fake. And at that point, he was arrested. It's a perfectly proper this is something what the Supreme Court has called a fast-moving street scene. You don't substitute your judgment for the judgment of police officers who are making split-second decisions to preserve public safety. This is a lot of noise signifying absolutely nothing. He will go to trial wherever he's been charged with a crime, and he will be convicted, unless judges do a very poor job of selecting jurors, because one of the biggest problems we have in the United States now is these leftists who have now decided they're going to attack judges, going to attack prosecutors, going to attack the president. They get on juries. And you know what those people do when they get on juries? They do everything except what the prosecutors want or asking to protect the public. Judges, both in federal and state courts, have done a horrible job of screening out biased and prejudiced jurors. And it's going to be very interesting to watch and see how judges handle state and federal jurors in the Mangione cases.
Joe, we got to leave it there. Thanks so much for coming on.
You bet.